Hey everybody, it's Ailarra. Thank you for joining me today for this stitch with me. It's been overdue. I am going to be working on this bald eagle from The Year in the Woods. This is their first round of critters. I'm stitching this 28 count 2/2 on Bestitch Me's equivalent to the Picture This Plus recommendation of Valor. Hers is called Spirit of the Forest. And here's where we're starting from. Let me zoom in a little bit. There. Does that look good? I think that looks good. Alright. Can I still see Pattern Keeper? Close enough. So, if you watched my update, you'll know that I was hoping to record immediately after I did my update. And this is kind of like just a slice of how the last 3 months have gone for me. So I had my camera clipped in. I was ready to go. Like, I was literally reaching to hit record, and my father-in-law calls my phone. So I stop and I answer it. And one of my stepsons and his girlfriend, they have one vehicle between them, and it is having some severe transmission issues. Like, they cannot drive it right now. And he was supposed to do the chauffeuring today to help them because my son gets off work. He works for a landscaping company and goes home, gets his girlfriend, and takes her to work, and then goes back home. As far as their schedule goes. So he was supposed to get him do the shuffling today, but he is getting a furnace installed in his little apartment, and they were not done. And he forgot. So he was like, can you do the shuffling for right now, and then I'll go get the girlfriend after work. Okay. And this was 5 minutes after I should have already left the house. I am using my father-in-law's Jeep, because my husband and I technically only have one car between us at the moment. But we have the use of this ancient Jeep, which, I mean, it runs okay, but we've had some minor issues with that as well. Well, it needed gas. I was like, crap. So I was like, I'm gonna be late. I know I'm gonna be late picking him up, which means she's gonna be late for work. And I don't like being late for work, so I felt her stress, which she's never stressed about being late. They understand what their situation is. So anyways, yeah, I go and I get gas and I pick him up and, do all that. But that was my hour, because it takes about an hour and 10 minutes to do the whole circuit. And that was my hour that I was going to record. And, so the child was home, and which I had already gotten delayed because I always forget, like I say, I'm going to record directly after I record. And I always forget that I have to edit and upload and delete the update video off of my phone before I can record a stitch with me, because my phone's been being stupid when it comes to space and recording videos lately. So I was already behind schedule as it was. So my son was home from school already, but he was hanging with his grandpa, and I thought I would have enough time between him being at his grandpa's and dinner. Nope. Nope. So it is actually now 4 o'clock in the morning, and I've had 5 hours of sleep. I got tired I was ready to go to bed, and I did, as soon as my son was tucked in, I went and got ready for bed and got in bed. I was falling asleep in my chair trying to do any kind of stitching before he had to go to bed. So I was like, yeah, screw it, I'll just go to bed early, which thank goodness I did, because, yeah. But, So it was about 3:30, and the dog wakes up. I had to pee. I get up and pee, and the dog's pacing. And then he couldn't get comfortable, so he's like scratching at his bed, trying to get his blankets all maneuvered. And I'm like, oh my God, go back to sleep. He starts settling down, and then my husband starts snoring really loud. It's like, oh my God, I can't win. And then, of course, my brain was like, oh, well, we're awake and they're keeping us up. We might as well do a stitch with me. And of course, that wouldn't shut up after it thought about it. So here we are, 4 o'clock in the morning, recording a stitch with me. I mean, that's kind of how my channel started anyways, right? Terrible sleep. It hasn't, it's been a little bit better lately. Mildly, slightly. But yeah, that's okay. I honestly don't remember what I have talked about previously as far as like where life left off. I'm not very good at equating dates with my timeline, like my life history timeline. So if something happens and there's a significant gap of time between when I talk about it and like the actual date, I don't remember it in relation to the rest of timeline. I don't know if that makes sense, but I know I had talked about my son starting basic and being in basic and then having some health issues. He had broken his hip in high school in football and thought it was fine. Turns out it wasn't fine, and he ended up in the rehab facility, the medical rehab facility, a weekend basic, right? Trying to figure out if this injury that hadn't quite healed enough for basic training activities. Because he had been signed off by the doctor. There we go. But this doctor was, like civilian, and I don't think they realized what kind of stress that his hip would be under for basic. They didn't do like a follow-up MRI or anything like that. I think they did like a follow-up X-ray, but that may not be right either. So he was in there for almost the full. How long was basic? 8 weeks. I think basic's 8 weeks. He was in there for the full 8 weeks. So 7 weeks of it were rehab and filled with doctor's appointments and MRIs and physical therapy and everything. But he had a rough time there because they don't really have. I mean, I don't know. And if you're familiar, if you've got loved ones in the military, you've been there yourself. They know there's not, oh, you screwed up, here's your punishment. It's, oh, you screwed up, here's everyone's punishment. Like everybody is in the same boat. Somebody doesn't, and because they're not, doing normal activities, the only thing they really have to go on is like, was your bed, I don't know, was your rack made properly? Is that the proper term? I don't know terms. So if somebody screws that up, or there's minor infractions or whatever, then that's the only thing they have to go on, right? So if somebody screws that up, they have like TV to take away or phone privileges to take away. Like there's not much in the way of here's how we're gonna make your life miserable in basic to do, because these kids are already miserable in there. They're ill. So, and unfortunately, this is also where all the sick kids came. So he was sick the entire time he was dealing with this, because everybody comes from everywhere and brings all their germs with them, and then specifically the kids that are in there that are ill are in with the kids that are all not ill but in for injuries and stuff. So yeah, he was sick the entire time. and bored. Very, very bored most of the time. But he did end up getting medically discharged. So the technical like phrase for it is less than honorable, which sounds terrible, but it's really not. He's actually allowed to re-enlist 6 months after the discharge if he can get medical clearance, which that's not going to happen. He's looking at like surgery and a year of rehab to get this hip back to where it needs to be. And, and he said, frankly, my experience has kind of opened my eyes a little bit about how I feel about a military career, which, that's fair. He's like, if I do go back in, it'll be in the Air Force, not the Navy. But like when he got back, he wanted nothing to do with doctors for a little while, which I can't really blame him. So he's since told me he's actually got, I can't remember if he's got an appointment scheduled or he's been to his first appointment. I need to touch base with him on that. He stays with his dad at the moment because we are kind of in the middle of remodeling the kids' rooms, and we were not, he was looking at starting his whole life as an adult and not needing his parents' house anymore. So he moved the rest of his stuff over to his dad's, and prior to leaving for basic, in preparation for us to kind of rearrange our house and our living situation here. But he just got hired at one of our local grocery stores. But he's going to be working. Both my poor kids, they're both working at places third shift, and that they're like, yeah, thanks for the weird sleep, Mom. It's all your fault because they wanted third shift. Shoot, which block did I use? I guess we'll just use the one labeled blank, right? So he's planning on starting community college courses in January. Just general education. He doesn't know exactly what he wants to do, but he's like, yeah, it's probably a good idea if I don't really know what I want to do to just kind of make the effort to, he does have a couple of ideas as far as like, he's not just quote unquote wasting time at college. Like he's got a plan. But like as soon as he got home, he was like, hey, I got to get an apartment and I got to get a job. And I'm like, honey, just take some time to figure out what you want to do. You thought you had your whole life figured out, and that's not the case. So, but man, am I proud of him for doing what he did in the first place. I certainly never considered it. I was not exactly anti-military, but I certainly was not one that was going to jump on it as far as a career goes. So there's that. And then let's see, the gathering thread happened, of course, and I talked a little bit about that in my update video. Jade did such an amazing job. Oh my gosh. For her first retreat, it was seriously felt like a large, like already established retreat shrunk down to super cozy size. And it was a really good weekend. It was so good to see some people that I had met previously. I got to meet new faces, like that some of you guys that have supported my channel for a while, and I actually got to meet you in person. That was awesome. I got to sort of re-meet a couple of people that I had met at Stitch North before, but that Stitch North I was very overwhelmed the first time that I was at Stitch North. And because that's, there's a lot of people there. And Jade had it so that all of the vendors were like around the perimeter of the room, which I loved. Like, I loved being able to still kind of be in among the action of the actual retreat. Because it can be pretty isolating as a vendor. You're just sitting in your booth waiting for people to stop by, and you don't get a lot of interaction except for the people that stop by, which was kind of the case. Like, when I was busy, obviously that's what I was doing. But the table that I would sit at when vending time closed down for the day was literally right next to that table. I could hear a lot of the conversations happening, so I was doing the creeper listening on thing. It was hard to participate in the conversation, but I was happy to at least be part of it. Some of these threads are stupid short, so it's going to be a lot of needle threading happening here. Sorry, guys. Excuse me. I brought a bunch of can only be procured in America snacks as far as like chocolates goes. Which I had never before seen chocolate covered paydays. And if you're not familiar, so it's basically like a caramel or caramel nougat. I can't remember. I actually didn't eat one while I had the opportunity with them in front of me. But it's like a caramel base covered in whole or like half peanut pieces or whatever. And then usually that's it for a payday. But these were also dipped in chocolate, and they looked fantastic. And apparently those were really popular. And I brought Butterfingers and Three Musketeers. This is something else, I think. I can't remember what the other one was, but Oreos. I brought some Oreos that like the weird flavors that you can't really get all the time. So that was fun. And then some of the other girls brought, like, there was so many goodies at our table. It was kind of wrong hole. Excuse me. No, also wrong hole. What am I doing? Hang on. Okay, we're gonna do this the smart way, and I'm gonna outline so I can just fill in and not have to worry about looking and counting. My sales were really, really great. I really appreciate the support. I know a lot of people had commented saying that they were really excited to have my bags there because international shipping is stupid, because it is so expensive. So I seriously, I appreciate how many people like stopped by and checked it out and purchased bags and thread beds. But getting to that point was aggravating, to say the least. I think it took me a solid solid 3 months. Was it 3 months? I don't, however many months, because Jade did not. She put this together in a really short amount of time, which, man, I would have lost my mind trying to do. And she did such a good job. I can't get over it. And but yeah, it took me a solid 3 months, I would say, of talking with Canadian authorities and getting paperwork sorted, getting registered. Like, I'm pretty sure I spent 15 hours, like solid 15 hours on the phone getting things taken care of, because like I would get confused a little bit about certain directions, or like who I needed to talk to, what form I needed to fill out first, because you had to kind of do steps in order to get registered. I had to talk to their version of the IRS, to verify like if I would need to file taxes in Canada. Like I have to pay taxes, based on, basically it's a duty tax, for crossing the border with U.S. goods. And so I had to see, do I need this number because I am filing taxes? And they're like, no, you're not going to make enough money in Canada for us to worry about you paying taxes. And then I had to have like confirmation that I didn't need that in order to go for it. Was a lot. Where am I at? What am I doing? Oops. And then so you have to basically pre-declare your goods, right? You have to, and every good has to have a harmonization code in order to be categorized, and so they know how to tax it, right? So I spent hours looking up harmonization codes, trying to make sure that I had the right one. And then you fill out this form that has an itemized list of your stuffs. Well, this form, once I finally got it filled out, would not submit. I kept getting an error, but the error didn't tell me where the problem was. And yeah, like I couldn't for the life of me get it submitted. I printed out what I could as far as information goes and took it with me. But so I got to customs, and the dude at the booth, right, where your car like goes in and you say, yes, I have things to declare. They were super nice. They're like, okay, park here, go here, talk to this person. Okay, not a problem. So I park my car, I get out, and they're like, you're gonna have to take your stuff in. Okay, so I go ahead and I grab this giant bin of crap and all my paperwork. And I go inside and I'm like, hi, I need to declare my goods and I cannot get this. I tried to get the online form submitted and it wouldn't go through. So I need to know who to talk to or who, where to go, whatever. They're like, okay, you need to go upstairs and you need to go to this department. So I truck everything upstairs, drag everything upstairs. And there's an agent at the desk that I need. And I say, hi, I need help because I couldn't get this form to submit, and I've got to declare my stuff. I'm an importer, but I was like, this is literally what I have. And he's like, I can't help you. That's all online. I'm like, what do you mean you can't help me? They're like, I'm like, isn't this the department of the people that I talk to when I'm bringing goods in? And he just kept saying, you're gonna have to go online. And there was no signal in this building for my cell phone. All of the information that I needed as far as like logging in was on my phone. So I drag everything back downstairs, take my stuff outside, go outside, get signal, write down what I need, go back inside. And at this point, I'm like, I don't know what this guy wants me to do. I can't do anything online because it wouldn't submit. So on a whim, I go back upstairs and the guy's not there. And I'm like, oh, there's another agent. Thank God. Let me see what he says. And that guy was my angel in disguise, because he was like, oh, that's really strange. Let me jump on here with you and see. He was like, he's not wrong. It's like it is done all online, but I understand where you're coming from as far as your conundrum goes. So let's jump on here and see what's going on. So I log in, I show him what is happening, and he's like, okay, this is really weird. He was like, yeah, usually it tells you exactly what the problem is, and it's not giving us that. So we poke around, and I had my carabiners listed at one point for my strap system that goes with my bags. I don't do a lot of like quote unquote advertising for those because it's kind of one of those, like, if you don't see it in action, it doesn't really make sense to a lot of people. But anyways, the carabiners are subject to additional taxes and tariffs because they are made in China and they're not modified in any way. Even though basically all of my materials come from, the fabric is manufactured in Chinese factories in a lot of cases. I mean, the Silk Road was not there for nothing, right? Like, China really does have kind of a foothold on a kung fu grip, if you will, on a lot of fabric manufacturers, right? Like our hammock material all comes from China. Like, all of there is no factory in America for the fabric that we use for our hammocks. And not that there's no cotton fabric manufactured, but that's just where a lot of it comes from, right? Anyways, I digress. So, it's clearly labeled, made in China. So I was like, I don't really feel like paying a lot of money to get these into Canada when carabiners are, they're not hard to find. People can source those, right? So I deleted them off of the itemized list, and I did not realize that when that happened, so the itemization is actually labeled like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever. And it went 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. It literally deleted the line number 5 and didn't reorder them. And like, we kind of did a side note about it when we were looking at stuff. It didn't dawn on us that that could have been the problem. So just in sort of ITing our way through it, he was like, hey, do you mind if we like delete a line and re-add it just to see how this goes? I was like, yeah, sure, go for it. Can't hurt anything at this point, right? And in doing so, deleting another line and re-adding it actually fixed it. Like, it now read 1 through 7 once we re-added that line, and it allowed it to submit. It took us 2 hours to figure that out. Maybe an hour and 15, hour and a half, hour and 30. What am I saying? I don't know. Words. And once that was submitted, I was able to go and pay the duties on it. Because unfortunately, I have to pay duties to everything that goes in, right? So it was like $100 US to get it over the border. And then I don't have to, and then I just kind of, I did have to sort of up my prices a little bit to absorb that cost. Sort of like a tax included thing. But yeah, so it was not, I wouldn't say it was like, it wasn't hard to do everything that Canada required, but it was very, very, very time consuming. Right. And, but once it was done, I was like, okay, this might not be like a terrible experience or a terrible thing to do again, right? Like, okay, I've got this process down, I've got this method down. Not a big deal, right? Biggest issue was that anything that I didn't sell, I could get the tax refunded on, right? Once it left the country again. I was like, okay, future me problem. I can deal with this for now, right? My other issue was that I could not find a merchant provider that would do international sales for credit cards. You had to have a physical store, and every single one of these, they're like clauses, fine print, whatever. Could not use this internationally, had to have an address in the foreign country in order to be able to register like Square or whatever swipey thing you want to use for using credit cards. So after I tried, I think 3 or 4, and after that I was getting down to where I was like, this is not happening. So I made an announcement that I would only be able to do cash sales, right? Okay, not a big deal. As long as people knew and could, had access to an ATM or whatnot. Except that their $1 and $2 are coin only. And none of the banks around here would give me coins. It was all dollars. So it was 5s, 20s, 50s. Like I could get, Canadian paper. Well, plastic. Their money's made of plastic. It's very, I like it makes sense because they're very different. Like their bills are all like different colors. Like the 5s are all one colors. The 10s are all one colors. Like you can see the difference as long as, you're not like colorblind. U.S. money is not like that. It's made out of paper and very uniform in look, unless it's like a new one versus an old one, right? Anyways, yeah, my bank was like, we can't do coins. I was like, how am I going to give change properly if I can't get coins? And so I had to deal with getting change as soon as I got to Canada. It was nuts. Like I've completely Jade's daughter had some rolls of I think it was loonies and toonies she was able to give me. I still had to get like quarters and nickels and stuff. Quarters. I still have some of it. But yeah, it was that was another pain in the arse trying to do that. get it so that I could actually give change. But man, there was only a few people who did not get the memo who, maybe they're not on Facebook or weren't in the group or whatever that just, they didn't have the memo. But for the most part, everybody was well prepared, came with their cash, easy transactions, right? And then I would just have to, and unfortunately you lose some value of the dollar. Like you can't just go on Google and be like, oh, this is the exchange rate. No, every place that does money exchanges has their own rate of conversion. So like I lost a little bit of value between merchants converting because I stopped at, I don't know what to call it. It's not the duty. Not the, I don't know. There was a guy that did currency exchange on the Canadian side that I went ahead and stopped at, and his conversion rate was a little different, so I lost a little bit of value in the conversion going back and forth. He did not charge me for it, but like the bank that I used to get the cash that I had, they charge a service fee, right? And everybody's got to get their cut. So, we had the weekend. It was amazing seeing Suki in person for the first time in forever. And man, we both needed the weekend so bad. Because she has been through the ringer. I'm hoping, knock on friggin' wood, that she is coming out the other side though. Now construction has started on her house. I'm super excited for her. It looks amazing so far. Like it's still just bare wood on the inside, but there's some new wood in there now. And I think the space is going to work a lot better for her. But anyways, yeah, I'm so excited for her. And I, getting to talk with everybody. It was, oh man, it was so much fun. And I'm not usually like super, I'm not usually one to like go around to all the tables. Because generally speaking, it does, like, I'm very introverted in person, so it does take kind of a lot for me to like go be extroverted and like make the initiative to go talk. But I did the rounds and like saw what people were doing, and people were knitting and crocheting, and good times. But of course, all things have to come to an end. And good and bad, which is good, right? So yeah, so we pack up and head out, and it took me, so from my house to the retreat, is a 12-hour drive. So I was in the car for 14 hours on the way up there. I'm not in the car, you know what I mean. And on the way back, the return trip was 11 hours because traffic patterns were different and everything. But then I got to the U.S. Customs side, and I had been told by the Canadian Customs folks that I will need some sort of like government declaration of proof of what I'm taking back into the United States, basically re-exporting, right? Bringing back my stuff that doesn't sell so that I can submit a request for refund on the taxes. Okay, no problem. I'll stop on the U.S. side. Apparently big problem. Not big problem, but it could have been, depending on the agent. It could have been a big problem. Because I was supposed to do, so, I talked about this whole rigmarole on the phone and everything and filling stuff out on the Canadian side. Apparently there's an entire U.S. side of it that I should have been doing as well. Because when you export to Canada, when you import to Canada, you are exporting from the U.S. And it never ever clicked in my head that you are exporting U.S. goods. That requires U.S. paperwork. So when I went in to request my paperwork, they're like, wait, you exported? Yes. Yeah, you should have had a customs broker doing paperwork and getting things ready for you on this side as well. Oh God, am I in trouble? They're like, no. He was like, you are not in trouble. You did amazing as far as your research goes. You just didn't realize you needed to research this side of it. He was like, he was like, and the U.S. basically requires that businesses use a customs broker. He was like, he was like, as a small business, he was like, you're probably going to find that is not worth it. And he's totally right. Like, I don't want to pay for that. He did give me like paperwork that I could submit to Canada, but once I went through all of that, another 2 or I was over it. I was like, you know what, I will eat what's left. Like, it's fine. It's whatever. So, yeah, even though I am golden on the Canadian side for doing that again, I am not on the U.S. side. And frankly, I would rather deal with Canadian government any day of the week than the U.S. government. At least the Canadian government officials were nice for the most part. Because I'll tell you what, talking to the U.S. Customs, like my U.S. Customs dude was awesome, but they're all intimidating. Like, Canadian Customs dudes were not, I mean, no offense, Canada, but your people aren't intimidating when it comes to customs. Because like I got to the U.S. Customs booth lady, and she was like, I don't know how to handle your requests. Let me call somebody. And she called her supervisor and was like, okay, so they want you to go ahead and go inside. You'll have to like talk to an agent in there. So there was not clear instructions on where to go. So I just went into the main entrance and I tried to like speak with somebody, and they're like, I'm sorry, ma'am, you're going to have a seat until someone can get to you. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, they're grumpy and treating people like that because they think anybody who comes inside is coming inside because they're, some issue was found, right, with their paperwork or whatever. Why ever they're inside, something's amiss. So it's, all. And so I'm sitting there like waiting, and somebody was finally kind enough to be like, ma'am, do we have your paperwork? I was like, no, because I'm not in here because you guys asked me to be. I'm in here because I'm requesting paperwork. And they're like, Oh, and all of a sudden they were super nice. I was like, really? This is how we're treating foreign people when they come in because there's issues with their paperwork that you want. Sorry, I'm getting on a. Let me take a breath. Let me take a breath. So, anyways, after I said that, they were all helpful and nice, and we're like, "Oh, hang on, you don't want this area. We need to take you over to the import export area, which is like, think creepy side doors and yeah, like not a main entrance, right? Not a main character door." So I drive around, get out, and am escorted to where I need to be. And again, ma'am, you'll have to have a seat. And eventually I'm like, look, you, and I started, I led with that at this point. I was like, you don't have my paperwork. They're like, what? I'm like, yes, I'm in here of my own volition. I need help. I have questions. And that's when I got the dude that was helping me. And he was pretty cool. Explaining sort of the processes, and he was awesome, like honest about, like, it's really going to depend on the agent that you get as to how much hoops they're going to make you jump through. He was like, because it is sort of, some of it is agent discretion, which I'm like, that sounds okay, like whatever. That's sounds like the too much leeway we give government officials here, right? So, and neither agent, U.S. or Canada, actually looked at the goods that I brought with me. Like, visually verified it. They're like, you went through all of this work. You have everything completely itemized. We're going to trust you. You're fine. We don't need to see. Like, why am I dragging this giant tote around? But yeah, once I got through talking with him, I was like, okay, if there's an entire U.S. side that I have to deal with and they want me to use a broker, that part is just going to make it not worth it, unfortunately. Like, if I actually shipped goods to a third party to sell on my behalf, that would be the ideal situation. But taking it over and selling it myself, nope, not worth it. These little short pieces are starting to make me irritated. But I don't know if you can see, like, where are you? Where's the camera? So I have a bunch of these short ones, and then there's this, I don't know what happened. Could I put two of them together and stitch that way? Yes. But I like stitching with my one strand folded over. I don't lose my needle. I don't do the loop method because then that gives me more tiny pieces to deal with afterwards. So my loop is actually caught here at the end. In the middle of the thread is caught in my needle. Anywho's. So I get home, that was what, the end of August? Third week of August, something like that the gathering thread happened. Trying to think if, oops, too far. If anything specific happened between the gathering thread and my birthday. I don't think so. It was pretty quiet. It was nice. Like, I can tell you things that are happening, but I can't tell you it in the proper order. And I don't remember if the minor house remodeling had started before my last video. I think it had. I know my son's room was done. I can't remember if I complained about this already. Sorry if this is going to be a repeat story, but I'm going to tell it again. The last adult child to leave was my other stepson, not the one with the car troubles, right? And unfortunately, he did not leave on great terms. He left of his own volition, but it was close to being asked to leave, to be honest. He's got a lot of growing up to do. He's got a lot of responsibilities to learn, and it was time. But he left behind about $1,000 worth of damage to that room. So we had to completely rip up all the flooring and replace it. There was hardwood in there, like laminate flooring or whatever, that dovetails together. And he kept fish in his room, and we did not realize how poor he was at paying attention, which honestly, frankly, doesn't surprise me in hindsight, at paying attention when he would clean the fish tanks, and there was water damage everywhere. Like, we had to get some kills and get the walls and stuff because there was mold growing from all of this water damage. Luckily, we did not have to actually rip the walls out. But even had there not been water damage, there was enough damage to the floor from him dragging stuff and like gouging huge gouges out of this flooring. It would have had to have been replaced anyways. There's damage on the wall, the door frames. We went through a lot of spackle to fix holes in walls, and yeah, it was just very disrespectful. Oh crap, something is wrong. Hang on. I did not count something somewhere correctly. That is one too many. I'm not ripping that out. Yeah. That stitch right there should not be there, but it's fine. Nobody's gonna care. Nobody's gonna know. It's fine. So, there's that one. So there should be 8. Here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Shit. Something isn't adding up. Dude. Dude. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is why I like stitching dragons when I'm talking to you guys, because counting and talking is hard. Oh no, is this in the wrong spot? Hold please. Talk amongst yourselves. Oh, son of a biscuit eater. Crap. Okay. You go over there. Sorry if you can hear my stomach growling. It's not time to eat, and it thinks it is. Gotta do some frogging. So, let's see, can you see? There should have been one more stitch on this row here, which means this is over too far, like to the right, to the left, which means this is incorrect. So I'm going to frog this, add my stitches here. I'm going to stitch over this one with white. It's fine. It's fine. It's fixable, right? Totally fine. So we've got the flooring replaced. We actually found a really nice, really super, my bare feet love this carpet. We found a really nice piece of remnant carpet that just fit the room. We rented, my husband used to do flooring for a living till it destroyed his knees, which didn't take long because they were already kind of destroyed to begin with. And so we had to rent a power stretcher because the room is so big to get the carpet stretched properly. And he installed the carpet, and it looks fantastic. He painted the room. He will admit he has not the best skills when it comes to painting, but he got that. The second room went a lot better than the first room. We still have some stuff like the door frame that I talked about. Ooh, can I flag this as well? Probably not. It's probably all captured underneath the white. Yeah, that's all right. We'll just see if I can use what's left here a little bit. We do want to replace, there's an overhead light in that room that we want to install a ceiling fan instead of just the light that's there. So we gotta add one here. And one here. Honestly, I could probably just not even worry about this gray stitch. It's just an extra stitch. It'll be fine. Then, so this is the stitch I need to count off of. Skip 2. So here and 3. 1, 2. No, I still think that doesn't give me enough stitches. That should have been 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm still short over here. So we'll have to go back and figure that out. And then this one. Oh, see, I just like threw that needle because it was a traditional 2-strand. Okay. Let me go ahead and stitch those missing ones. We still have to fix the door frame. That he had like a over the door closet organizer or something that my husband was like, that's kind of gouging out the door frame. He's like, no, it's fine. It's not hurting anything. Yeah, door frame molding stuff, whatever, needs to be replaced now. Is that the right spot? Yes. Okay. But otherwise, the room looks nicer, much nicer. That's going to be our guest room, so eventually we want to put a bed, and I want to actually put like a proper like headboard, footboard, like an actual bed in there besides the, like, just a mattress and frame. Mattress and frame just looks, I don't know, looks tacky to me. It's what I grew up on. I never had a bed. It was just a metal frame with box spring and mattress, which, I mean, it's perfectly serviceable. There's nothing wrong with it, but I don't know. It's not very welcoming. It doesn't feel cozy to have just a naked bed, in my opinion. It's what I want for us and for that room, right? Don't really want it to go in that hole. Go in this hole. And then once that's done, well, and we've slowly been getting all of my youngest son's stuff up to, so he moved from the basement room down here to his room upstairs. There's still a ton of crap in his old room, but he does have a smaller room now. Like, he's up with the land of the living, not in the dungeon. But there's not as much storage space, right? So we're slowly working. What we did was we are using the cubbies that all of my craft stuff was in down here, put it in his room, and then he's got like this built-in shelving in the room downstairs that my craft is going to get moved into. Like, I'm going to have a craft room eventually, but I have to count. Hang on. Why is that not working? Because I get to move this over. Okay. Oh, come on. Do, 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 do. Gosh, I forgot that this thing autofocuses. I hope it has not been a pain as far as focusing goes. Okay, so this gets added a stitch here. And here. And here. But I'm still short, right? 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. Yeah, I'm still short here. So I gotta figure out. That should be even. And this should be. That worked out. All right. 3, 2, 2. 3, 2, 2. Perfect. Okay. Let me end this one. And I can keep going with this one. Okay. Back on track. One less. So we'll have to. My husband does not deal with electricity at all because it hurts. So we have to have an electrician come out to do the ceiling fan when we're ready for it. We have not purchased it. It is not high on the list of things to get done as far as like the house goes, right? Our next priority is to get me into this craft room. Well, I need to paint. That's the room that some of my videos have a background of like a mural on it. That mural is going to go away. It's time. That is going to be painted over. I ordered some paint chips to to repaint that room. And I got them and I took them in the room and went, whoa, what is happening with the lights? Because the paint looks nothing at all like it should under those lights. So I want to replace all of the lighting, the ceiling lights, because it's sickly yellow. I want to get like LED daylight, because there's no windows in there. I want to get LED daylight bulbs. But most of these are like the insert can lights, ceiling lights that are like recessed into the ceiling. And what I'm seeing is it's kind of the whole thing needs to be replaced. Like the entire housing needs to be replaced with these. So I got to do that in order to be able to see what I can paint this room. So, and we're kind of on hold at the moment with remodeling, because my son has to have a round of orthodontics. He needs 2 rounds of orthodontics, but he needs to get into his first round like ASAP. He had his evaluation in July, and those evaluations, simply because they're growing, their mouths are changing, you've got to get them in a certain window, and that window closes in December. And our orthodontic coverage is awful, so we're going to be out of pocket like $3,000 for this first round. And in order to not have to actually go through a financing company, and the company that they use to finance, I refuse to do business with that bank. So they have an office policy where you can do payments through their office, but you have to have $1,000 down. So I am currently working to get that down payment taken care of. Which brings me to another chapter of why Ailarra has been absentee. So my husband, I'm sure if you've heard me yap about life before, you know that he took on a position as a sous chef at a local country club. He's still there, and I wouldn't say it's improved, but it has not gotten worse. So, he's enduring for the moment. There's a lot of issues with the upper management above him, and that needs to stop. But for now, it is what it is. He's making, for food service, he's making good money. But unfortunately, it's not like, I looked it up, and the national average, where the region that I'm in falls decently on the middle of the average for national. So it's a pretty decent measure. But I did look up for my state specifically, the average, like what would household income in my area look like for a family of 3, 2 parents, 1 child. And it's almost double what he makes, which is so sad. So sad that him making decent money at a position that he's really good at still equals not good enough in our economy and the way it's built. And it's not that he's not good enough or not doing well enough, because he's busting his ass and he takes such good care of us. But the system is just not built for it. Like, can we get by on his salary? Yeah. Can we live comfortably on it? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. We cannot stay afloat properly on his salary. So, which, keep in mind, I've been working this whole time too. It was just one of those, what's the minimum? What do we look like when it looks like, hey, you can get an oil change when you need it in your car, kind of thing, right? And like I said, that looked like his salary again. And we've got the business that we run together. He frankly does not have time to deal with a lot of the admin that goes, like, I don't know, like, it's his baby, because I don't have the head for a lot of the he's got an instinct when it comes to the hammocking aspect and the quilting aspect of what we do. Right? I can't talk to a customer and sort of intuitively know what to pair them with, and he's really good at that. So I am not customer facing when it comes to the business that we have together. We had taken a huge step back getting out of the custom aspect, because before, what it would be here's the fabric choices, the color choices, for what you want. You pick off of the website, you order, I make. And I could not get ahead. And unfortunately, people are people, You order something and you want it. You've spent your money. You want your product. Totally understandable. I'm the same way. However, clearly marked on our website is that there is a lead time. Here is the approximate lead time. This can change and is only approximate, right? Especially with the hammocks. I'm one person trying to navigate things. And we would get people messaging 3 days after they ordered, when's my stuff going to ship? And our lead times typically are 6 to 8 weeks for our hammocking gear. Sometimes more, rarely less. And he would have people messaging 3 days. Where's my stuff? And it was guaranteed that if somebody... I cannot get this stupid thread back on the floss drop. Come on. And guaranteed that if somebody messaged that early, they were going to message once a week. Minimum, asking where their stuff was. Oh, no rush. Just want to know if my stuff is getting ready to ship. And every time... And while I understand, like, communication is important as a business, right? You want to keep... Sorry, I'm going to have to knock you around. I got to hang my floss back up. Like, you want to keep... Oh, why am I... Oh, because I'm not plugged in. Sorry, hang on. I gotta plug my tablet in. I forgot to plug it back in. Where's the hole? Okay. Now I gotta get you situated again. Good? Golden? Good enough? Okay. How long have I been yapping? Oh my gosh, I've been yapping at you guys for like an hour. It's gonna be a long stitch with me. Maybe I should break it up. Yeah, why don't we break it up? I know I started telling you a little bit about the hammocking and stuff, but we'll do a part 2. How's that? Because I don't want to stress my phone storage and all that when it comes to being able to upload. So, and I will honestly, I will probably just turn the camera back on and keep recording after this uploads, depending on what time. It's almost 5 o'clock now. I don't really have to do much editing. I might be able to get the second half of this second part. I don't know how long it's going to be. But it's been a long time since I've talked to you guys, and lots happened. So let's do that. So stay tuned for it's, and it's probably not going to be released like right away. This is still, let's see, what is this? Wednesday now. I'm going to release this on Friday. We'll probably release the second part sometime next week. So thank you so much for tuning in and listening to me yap. Hopefully it didn't come across as too complainy, because it's not been bad. It's just been busy. So yeah, I will see you in the next stitch with me, and hopefully you will join me for that, and we'll go from there. Take care, guys. Bye.